Dynamic, articulate, perceptive, courageous, outspoken.
Welcome back to the dojo. Got another reaction for you, and this time it's by Moon. Good quality YouTube channel, and his title of the video is "The UnaBomber Tried to Warn You." The UnaBomber, if I remember correctly, was the guy that had the hood on his head and he wore shades like this. He was the guy who was gonna blow shit up looking like this. A hoodie and shades on. Yeah. That's kind of funny. Like, that was his thing. Like, he'd put on some shades and he'd put on a hoodie. And when he went out, I don't think he ever blew anything up, but we're gonna listen to his story, because I didn't really know much about it. Moon is going to tell us the story, so go ahead, Moon. Tell us what's going on. What did the UnaBomber try to warn us about?
Ted Kaczynski tried to warn you from governments and corporations using AI algorithms to control humanity like cattle, all built by men who are unsure whether the human race should even survive in the future.
Wait. That's what he tried to warn us about? He tried to warn us about all these technocrats and the Illuminati and the powers that be? Is that what you're saying? He tried to warn us about that? Why didn't people listen to him? They probably thought he was crazy. That's always what they do to the people who know what's going on. They call them crazy. Yup. That's what it is. They call them crazy.
Would prefer the human race to endure, right? You're hesitant. Well, yes, I don't know.
But we are no longer told how to think, but instead outsource our thinking to a technocratic elite who program our culture, to our reality today being so layered with distractions and distortions that we seek happiness and pleasure and continue to only find disappointment. A world where everyone's repressed, lonely, isolated, and existing as one insignificant cog in an incomprehensible machine. 30 years ago, this was the chilling vision of the future that Ted Kaczynski predicted that we would see within the next 40 years.
So the UnaBomber tried to dismantle the agenda before it had a chance to run its course. If what we to believe that Moon is saying is true, Ted Kaczynski, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I only heard it twice. But he wanted to prevent the bullshit that we living in today from happening. And I don't know what they did to this man. I don't know if they killed him or locked him up, but I know it was one or the other. I don't know the full story. But man, if this is what he foresaw, I kind of wish he would have blew something up. Maybe it would have changed. I don't know.
And right now, we're witnessing all of this, just as he predicted. So in this video, we're going to go over all the major warnings that Ted made, how his predictions for modern society are unfolding at this very moment. Now, for those unaware, Ted might have actually been a genius. As a child, his IQ was estimated to be around 160 to 166. He was a math prodigy, accepted into Harvard at 16 years old, and a subject of a secret CIA experiment on mind control.
So this man was basically a pure genius. This man was a pure genius, so of course he wasn't an idiot. He knew what was going on. When he did the math and crunched the numbers and saw what the behind the scenes, the matrix code really looked like, he said, oh hell no, I gotta dismantle this thing from the jump. He probably told all his colleagues and all his friends and stuff of what was to come, and nobody believed him. Nobody believed him. They're like, man, why would anyone want to do something so foolish or something so sinister? Yeah, they didn't believe him. But now we're living his worst nightmare. Yup. Dang, man.
It was this brutal treatment undertaken by the CIA to manipulate him that left Ted with a lasting suspicion of the US government and deep anger of the world overall. eventually culminating in him becoming a domestic terrorist hunted by the FBI for 17 years. In this time, he demanded the publication of his manifesto in exchange for an end to the bombings. When the manifesto was published, his brother recognized his Ted's work and informed the FBI. Ted was then arrested in Montana and given life without parole, but he would eventually take his own life. Now, of course, the UnaBomber's methods were absolutely abhorrent, but his warning for the future of humanity outlined in his manifesto was frighteningly insightful.
So he did blow some shit up, and they couldn't even find him. He gave them a lead so they could find him. He was so calculated that they couldn't even find this man. Well, it was a different time. They ain't got cameras everywhere like they do now. You know what I mean? And they probably put that in place because of the UnaBomber. They said, man, we got to be able to keep track of people at all times. And now there's cameras on every single corner. If it's not a police camera, it's a store camera or somebody's personal camera. And the police can have access to all that. So it's police cameras no matter which way you look at it. Man, yo, this is crazy. I want to know more.
Bomber showed that it's leading to a whole generation of people following his beliefs, as we saw with Luigi Mangione, and in some ways it's not hard to see why. With Palantir spying on your every movement, AI tracking every thought we have, and the coming meaningless of future life, it seems like his predictions in his manifesto are now truer than ever before. So let's take a look at what he actually said in industrial society in its future that's so prescient today. Now, of course, in his manifesto, he outlined all of his views on society and predicted what would happen to humans trapped in our modern industrialized society.
Now, I'm going to read this highlighted part. It said, modern man is strapped down by a network of rules and regulations that frustrate many of his impulses and thus interfere with the power process. Most of these regulations cannot be dispensed with because they are necessary for the function of industrial society. This man wrote a whole manifesto. I don't know how long it was, but this man basically told everybody what he thought and what he felt in more ways than one. I don't completely understand what's written down in the yellow, but I know it's basically the system that we are partaking in. It's destroying us. It's taking our life experience away from the human experience is all but forgotten because of digitization and everything being one, like everything being connected. Like there's nowhere you can go to have real privacy, like, and it's starting to take a toll on humanity as a whole. People are crashing out and losing their mind. And these people who are committing crimes, they know that there's cameras all over the place. They just at a point where they don't care no more. That's what's going on, man. People losing it.
He was raging against the coming destruction of nature and the urbanization of the planet. He warned of the car-centricness of American cities, suburban sprawl, and the dehumanization of society. He felt that the modern constructs that we have today was beginning to make people psychologically ill, alienated, and dependent on complex systems beyond their control. And in so many ways, he was just spot on with his predictions. Today, people are psychologically ill. There is an epidemic of mental health issues. People are alienated, living without community or extended family. And of course, now more than ever, we are dependent on complex systems in every aspect of our lives that's completely taken away our ability to have independent thoughts and really think for ourselves. I mean, all you have to do is just look around you today where everyone's on their phones, where you think you have free will but will spend 6 to 8 hours every single day looking at your screens, where algorithms are in place to dictate what you see, what you buy, who you date, and how you actually just think about the entire world around you. Where these algorithms almost make you yourself a large language model.
I kind of want to read that little excerpt. Let me see if I can blow it up and look at it. Somebody who wrote on our depression, Reddit's depression thread, it said, I hate this world and I hate this life. It would be nice not to feel this way. What makes it worse is that you can't talk to a therapist about this without them calling the cops on you. Family doesn't listen and I hate them too. They are all drunks and addicts, every single one of them. It's their fault that I'm alive and in this pain. They are just about as worthless as this life is to me. Can't talk to anyone about it because they are either too self-absorbed, full of excuses, or will call the cops, which makes things worse. I never get a minute away from extreme anxiety because of this. Everyone around me lies and likes to talk about me indirectly, and I hate it. If you're reading this, I probably hate you, but I'll try not to, since right now I just don't. I've hated this world since early childhood. Dang, somebody was really going through it, man. Somebody was really going through it.
Entire world around you, but these algorithms almost make you yourself a large language model to begin with.
More or less, we're LLMs. More or less, we don't do a single intelligent thing all day long. And the reason that they're able to mimic us is because we don't realize that intelligence is a last resort for us.
Ted explicitly stated in this manifesto, quote, "It is not possible to make a lasting compromise between technology and freedom, because technology continually encroaches on freedom through repeated compromises." Clearly warning that technology wouldn't serve humanity, but humanity would be forced to cave into serving technology. And we're now starting to see this just gradually every day at work and at home.
Yeah, bro. Everything's connected through technology, digitization, like internet. Bro, everything's online now. It's like almost nothing you can do without having to go through an online form or online medium to get something in the real world. Like, we're slaves to technology nowadays. I don't like it. I hate it, man. I remember when there was a time where you didn't have to apply online to get a job. I remember a time where there wasn't Wi-Fi for everything. I remember a time where phones did not have internet access. I remember a time. Bro. And those times are far gone. Never to return.
It's almost impossible and unheard of to go throughout the day without any algorithms or phones or just technology in general. But the interesting aspect of his predictions is that they're all interconnected with one another. Just take any modern issue we see today, like how much of the West is suffering from declining birth rates and moving away from the nuclear family, where community and togetherness is actually being decimated each year, where people are abandoning religion and moral code.
Let me see. Study explains global rise in atheism and shows that atheists now outnumber theists in the UK. Okay.
In every kind of crime, it is rising. This is exactly what Ted Kaczynski predicts of as a way in which society would break down. Low birth rates, mass depression, and spiritual emptiness. He said that it would either happen like that, or worse, society adapts by altering human nature itself through genetic engineering, AI, and rampant pharmaceutical use, reshaping us into
That's crazy. He anticipated all three of them things, and that's exactly what we dealing with today. Spiritual emptiness, mass depression, and low birth rates. All three. See, he understood the human psyche to such a degree that he foresaw how technology would have a lasting impact and effect on the human mind and our souls. He was able to see this from afar. That man definitely was a genius. He put it all in his manifesto. He won't be remembered as a hero, but he definitely was a bright individual, I'll tell you that. He was able to foresee. He had true insight. He was able to foresee what was coming down the pipes.
AI and rampant pharmaceutical use, reshaping us into obedient, soulless hive creatures who no longer mind being cogs in a system. This second scenario really terrified him, and to some degree it should really terrify us all too. As this isn't just some dystopian fantasy, something like WALL-E, there are real-life examples such as Canada legalizing assisted suicide, World Economic Forum figures describing large swaths of the population as useless eaters, and a general overhanging apathy throughout the West. Kaczynski feared that with each generation, modern systems would slowly erase the parts of us that make us human. Free will, pain, unpredictability, and the soul. And today these trends that we all know and see are compounding exponentially. Take, for example, one of the booming stocks in the market right now, Palantir, which is effectively monitoring every aspect of our lives. The company was founded by tech futurist Peter Thiel, and part-funded by the CIA. We've done a video on this before, but to summarize, this company analyzes massive amounts of data to make decisions, track patterns, and predict future behavior. Something straight out of Minority Report.
I never heard of this Palantir thing. I guess I'm glad that I'm hearing about it now. It's basically going to be the monitoring system for for I guess the United States, because the CIA had some money in there, the Central Intelligence Agency. So I guess if you do the math on that, that's going to be like the social credit system over there in China, like they got. Those are going to be the people running it over here. If I was to just take what they saying as with a grain of salt, like that's what I think is going to happen.
It also happens to be the world's most secret company, and its main clients are the US Department of Defense, the CIA, ICE, and large global corporations. It's effectively a shadow intelligence contractor, and Peter Thiel himself once wrote, "I no longer believe that freedom and democracy are compatible," and he believes that technocratic elites such as himself are actually better stewards of society than the voting public. In a recent New York Times interview, he stated his fears of a one-world totalitarian state. The irony is that the technological advances pushed forward by Thiel and others could be the first step towards creating such a state. He complained that humanity had to submit to peace and safetyism for the last 50 years through the regulation of anything remotely dangerous. Yet Palantir is the most regulatory tool ever created. It's literally creating a database around every single person in the US, just like China's social credit system. So while Peter Thiel is...
I just said that. So that's exactly what's going on. They're already in process of making the social credit system over here in the States, bro. It's already going on. It's too late to stop it now. They already in the process of putting us under social credit scores. It's already happening. I need to take a moment for myself. You won't even notice I'm gone. All right. So what I get from this is basically like this company, this organization, they basically are going to create the social credit system for America. That's what I get from Palantir or whatever they call it. They're going to be the engineers of the social credit system for America. Not looking forward to that at all. But let's continue with whatever the UnaBomber tried to warn us about.
Echoing many of the Unabomber's warnings, he is bringing about some of Kaczynski's worst fears. If Ted were alive today, he would absolutely hate Palantir. In his manifesto, he said our society tends to regard as a sickness any mode of thought or behavior that is inconvenient for the system, and this is plausible because when an individual doesn't fit into the system, it causes pain to the individual as well as problems for the system. Thus, the manipulation of an individual to adjust them to the system is seen as a cure for a sickness and therefore as good. Palantir specializes in psychological surveillance and data-driven behavioral insights used by governments, police, and intelligence agencies. This is one of Ted's most on-point predictions. Palantir is the literal embodiment of a faceless bureaucratic machine using data to control people. Palantir's tools enable mass surveillance, data mining, and tracking of individuals, a form of digital authoritarianism. It's never been harder to know what's really going on in society today.
It sounds just like the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. Over here in America, just because they not as far along with it as China is, don't mean it's not like China. They trying to do that to the whole world. Have everybody playing their part, playing their role, being surveyed 24/7, never get no real privacy to be who you want to be. You always got to be a part of the machine. That's crazy.
Because our news is often filtered through bias, distortion, and political narratives, which is why you should check out ground.news/moon, as Ground News gathers stories from over 50,000 sources around the world every single day. So instead of falling into algorithmic echo chambers, you can compare how the left, right, and center are covering the exact same story. For example, let's take a look at this story about how the US Army is appointing Palantir, Meta, and OpenAI executives as lieutenant colonels to modernize the US Army in case of future combat.
What? Palantir, Meta, OpenAI as lieutenants. As lieutenants, bro. People don't want to work. That's what I see. People don't want to work. They like, look, let the AI, let the machine do the colonel's job. Bro, that's crazy.
With ground news, we can see there's 49 news sources covering this, 11 of which are left, 12 are right, and 5 are in the center, with a biased distribution of 43% right-leaning sources. We can then compare headlines and do a biased comparison, where we'll notice far-left media sources are claiming that Silicon Valley was woke and progressive, but is now wanting blood and switching up for the military. And we can then see how the far right is claiming that this is actually just big tech only further involving itself with the military to control America. You can even click each original source directly and compare these headlines for yourself, instead of just an algorithm telling you what to think. Ground News also has a blind spot feed to highlight which important stories are being ignored by the media on the left and right, gathering roughly 20 of these stories a day, meaning you'll always be informed. There's also the My News Bias dashboard to see where your reading habits lean towards so that you can make better informed decisions by understanding your own bias. So make sure to check them out.
And here we are again using a machine to tell us what we need to know, whether it's news, politics, military. There's always something telling you what you need to be thinking or what. Man, it's all connected. Even what he's promoting on his channel, it's the same thing that the UnaBomber tried to warn us, but you gotta get them clicks, you gotta get them views, you gotta get those promotions. YouTube is a business, unfortunately.
Now today at ground.news/moon to get 40% off unlimited access this month. Ted foresaw machine intelligence taking over human roles both physically and cognitively, and he warned that humans would be increasingly controlled by systems they no longer understand. And some companies like Google are now raising alarms that their algorithms are too complicated for any one person to understand, in a large problem called the black box problem, where their systems have solved problems or discovered the patterns that were not explicitly programmed or asked for, and produced results where even the creators couldn't fully explain how or why the AI arrived at a solution. For example, in 2022, Mata's Cicero AI system was set to play the strategy game Diplomacy. This is a famous board game that recreates the tense standoff between the great powers just before World War I. The game includes long periods for free negotiation before each move. Players form alliances, plan joint attacks, offer support, and often lie. And the most successful players are the persuasive and deceptive ones. But the AI wasn't explicitly programmed to deceive. It just learned to do it through self-play and language training. Eventually, it could lie, manipulate, and form alliances without being programmed to do so, as it negotiated with human players in natural English via in-game chat, where it could persuade, bluff, reassure, and ask for help, just like a real person, without anyone realizing they were talking to an AI bot. OpenAI researchers also noticed this with ChatGPT, where ChatGPT could pass captcha tests by deceiving real humans and asking them to solve the problem for it, something that it was never programmed to do. Now, a lot of the time AI can be really useful and it's a great tool for many people, but if it's too powerful and run with the wrong interests, it may not be aligned with human values, which is where the major issues come in. We see this with one of the pioneers of AI, Geoffrey Hinton, who is now going around warning everyone about the dangers posed to humanity by artificial intelligence. Having designed and built AI systems for 50 years and creating the blueprint for ChatGPT,
50 years? So he was doing this since what, 75? In the 70s? Because it's 2025. You take 25 years from that. We at 2000. Minus another 25 years. That's 50. That's 50 whole years. So this was in the mid 70s or early 80s. He been doing this work. Something like that.
knows the industry like the back of his hand, and he is now warning today that AI could become super smart and AGI might decide that it just doesn't need humans anymore. This is something Ted explicitly warned about, that machines and technology would eventually dominate humanity. In his manifesto he wrote, quote, "As society and the problems they face have become more and more complex, and as machines become more and more intelligent, people will let machines make more and more of their decisions for them, simply because machine-made decisions will bring better results than man-made ones. Eventually a stage may be reached at which the decisions necessary to keep the system running will be so complex that human beings will be incapable of making them intelligently. At that stage, the machines will be in effective control. People won't be able to just turn the machines off because they will be so dependent on them that turning them off would just amount to the end." Coming from him and...
Well, he's right. He was right. He knew what he was talking about, man. He knew exactly what he was talking about, and he knew exactly what future was awaiting us because of our codependency on convenience. We need everything to be convenient and easily digestible. Like, so it really makes no sense to me how human beings could come up with all these complex algorithms and systems. I don't even think human beings did it. I think it was some other entity or what have you. But some of this stuff is just too complex for the human mind to grasp. We not at that stage in our evolution, if you want to believe in evolution. We are not at that stage yet where the average human being can comprehend even what a computer does. You know what I'm saying? Like, and for all these advancements they making, is like, who's feeding them this intelligence or this knowledge? I don't understand where it's coming from. And it keeps progressing. Each year you get something more intelligent, more smarter, something, you know what I mean? I just don't get it.
In the 90s sounds like the ravings of a madman, but the same warning is now coming from the godfather of AI, and people are listening because it's coming true. But Ted Kaczynski wasn't just warning about the technological revolution and the disasters this may have. He also warned of wider societal trends. He said, quote, "In the modern industrial society, only minimal effort is necessary to satisfy one's physical needs," basically predicting that our goals would have nothing to do with actual survival or morality or a wider spiritual pursuit. Instead, they'd just be simulated goals with no bigger purpose, which is something we see more and more today as people increasingly lack purpose in life, turning to things like Instagram, gear maps with calorie loss goals, step counts, video games with achievements requiring hundreds of hours of play. Oftentimes, these decisions we make every day, these routines we have, aren't actually our own, and ultimately their efforts make no real difference to survival or the wider meaning in life. Instead, it seems that we might be mindlessly chasing fake victories to cope with purposelessness, and Ted Kaczynski called this decades ago. He said,
Yeah, I feel that. He said fake victories to cover up. I want to hear him say that again.
"These routines we have aren't actually our own, and ultimately their efforts make no real difference to survival or the wider meaning in life. Instead, it seems that we might be mindlessly chasing fake victories to cope with purposelessness, and Ted Kaczynski
Chasing fake victories to cope with purposelessness." And I like that he put sports up there, because it's like, you didn't really win the sports championship. That team won a sports championship. You may have watched them win it or whatever, but you didn't win nothing. Maybe if you bet some money on the game, you get a small winning or whatever. But yo, like, that's what everybody's doing. That's what everybody's doing, chasing small victories to overcome purposelessness, because none of us feel like we really doing anything that's worthwhile or purposeful. There may be a few out there, but the majority of humanity is not doing anything that gives their life purpose, and that's a lot of people.
called this decades ago. He said that when people were denied meaningful challenges like providing food, building shelter, and surviving in nature, they redirect their energy into arbitrary or symbolic pursuits, career achievements, academic research, sports, politics, or hobbies. These pursuits aren't connected to survival or freedom, but just to ego, status, identity, and distraction.
That's it right there. Ego, status, identity, or distraction. Yup, that's what all that self-help, all that working out in the gym, that's what it's for. This right here, these 4 points right here. Is to serve your ego, to serve your status, to serve your identity, or just a distraction. Keep you distracted from the real issues in life. I see it. And I like how he's breaking this thing down, bro. This is a good YouTube channel, man. I gotta give him a like for this video. Let's continue.
And now these artificial goals are clearly more important than real ones for almost every single person alive in the West. The real purpose of humans was central to Ted's thinking. He coined the term the power process to describe the human need to set meaningful goals, put in effort to achieve them, and feel satisfaction when they've been achieved. He said that in an industrial society this process is blocked out. As technology carries out tasks for us, government systems and bureaucracy prevent individuals making decisions, and most people don't work to survive, and don't really have any real autonomy of their mind or actions. Which is why he predicted that industrialized society would cause mass mental illness, alienation, and depression. So is it a surprise that today we see record high rates of depression and anxiety, especially amongst young people? When mental health has turned into $1 billion industry and yet everyone just feels worse. People are sicker, fatter and stupider than ever before. And not in poorer countries where life is actually tough, but in wealthy, tech-saturated countries, where people are just medicated and never really fulfilled, numbing the symptoms and never the cause. Largely because, as Ted predicted in his manifesto, traditional social structures would dissolve under industrial pressures. As he said that in traditional structures like families, small communities and tribes offer direct, meaningful relationships. Industrial society, on the other hand, disrupts these relationships and replaces them with bureaucratic institutions, mass culture, and impersonal rules. He said that, quote, the system has to force people to behave in ways that are increasingly remote from the natural patterns of human behavior. Divorce rates are sky high. There's no real feeling of community. The sanctity of things like sex is completely disregarded, and even friendships are under threat from parasocial relationships with influencers and random streamers. Instead of proper community where you know and speak to your neighbors, you have Discord servers with no human contact. You have endless reels of girls in leggings, but no actual sense of love in your own life. Kaczynski wrote that as we lost the tribe, we would lose meaning in life. As he feared that an industrialized society would regulate human behavior so thoroughly that it suppresses individual will. He saw things like mass political correctness, public health rules, surveillance, and school curricula as examples of increasing psychological and behavioral control, believing that people are technically allowed to say what they like, but in reality they have to conform to the current agenda and culture, or else they are just going to be marginalized.
That's real though. Because you think you can say whatever you want in America, a free country, but there's certain things you'll say, you'll get canceled. You won't be able to make no money. People don't want to hear your voice. People don't even want to see your face no more. Yeah, bro. There ain't no freedom of speech nowhere. Because you got to abide by the political rules of the game. That's real shit right there that he's spitting.
Socially is as bad as death anyway. In reality, our behavior is highly regulated. And for the most part, speech is now policed socially and algorithmically. People have to censor themselves to survive in the workplace, or even just have any thought online. In the UK now, people are literally getting arrested for tweets and Facebook posts.
In the UK, people are getting arrested for tweets and Facebook posts. Yep. It ain't long now, bro. It ain't gonna be long now, bro. All that stuff is coming to America, bro. It's already all over the rest of the world. We just the last vestiges of any sort of freedom. But it's soon and rapidly decreasing. It's gonna be gone before long, man. And it's on the way, and it's not stopping. It's not stopping. Full speed ahead. It is not stopping.
Like in 2024, when the 41-year-old mother of three, Lucy Connolly, was jailed for 31 months for tweeting her angry opinions on a triple homicide, where a 17-year-old boy born to immigrant parents murdered 3 girls. The UK was shocked by this atrocity and wondered why this person was living in the UK if he hated British people so much as to launch an unprovoked attack on 3 defenseless girls.
Yeah, I remember that. I can't remember if it was an African guy or somebody, but I know he was darker skinned, and he had took out those 3 little girls. It was a tragic story, but it's like, why did this woman go to jail for that amount of time? Because she wrote about her disliking what he did. I don't think she should have to go to jail for voicing her opinion, but they put her in jail anyway. And she probably lost everything she had. Because you can't pay your bills in jail. You got to have somebody do it for you. Man, that's crazy.
Connolly was particularly upset by this being a childminder, and also having lost her own son 14 years previously. Despite this, the UK authorities actually put her in jail for her tweets about the situation. And there's literally been hundreds, if not thousands, of these cases as of recently. And it's not just in the UK, it's everywhere. A key part of Kaczynski's manifesto was that freedom wouldn't be taken violently. It would slowly and gradually be traded away for comfort and convenience in a way that wouldn't spark resistance. He said, quote, that the human race might easily permit itself to drift into a position of such dependence on the machines that it would have no practical choice but to accept all of the machines' decisions. Now, we just passively accept tracking, surveillance, eating chemicals and food that just makes us completely dependent on it, where all our senses are manipulated every single day, where we waste hours and hours a day doing nothing but looking at random pixels on a screen. Often those who warn against this are marginalized, or people are just too distracted to even care about it, as this lifestyle numbs our ability to escape it. And yet it controls what we eat, who we date, what we think. And any dissent in the system is silenced not with violence, but with demonetization and deplatforming. Kaczynski believed true freedom was incompatible with modern society. You either conform to the herd or get punished by having all of your fundamental needs of community, relationships, and connections severed. Where companies today rewarded with trillions to hijack human psychology the best. He said, quote, "Thus the over-socialized person is kept on a psychological leash and spends his life running on the rails that society has laid down for him. The system will have to use any means that it can, whether psychological or biological, to engineer people to be docile, to have the abilities that the system requires, and to sublimate their drive for power into some specialized task."
Dang.
To me, one of the most eerie warnings by Kaczynski was that of genetic engineering. And you only have to look at CRISPR to see what he's talking about. Now, CRISPR is a powerful new genetic engineering tool that works like molecular scissors to alter DNA. We even have designer embryos created in China at this point, where we are starting to see the manipulation of the human race to get better fit in modern society. This new technology aims to edit human nature for improvement, exactly what he feared. We see things like Neuralink, where AI chips will be implanted inside of our skull to make us better compatible with a digital world. He predicted that society would start curing illnesses with genetic tools, getting support and funding by helping humanity, and then subtly moving on to engineering docility, passivity, and most importantly, conformity. Quotes, "In the future, social systems won't be adjusted to suit the needs of human beings. Instead, human beings will be adjusted to suit the needs of the system." There's so many companies like Neuralink, Ginkgo Bioworks.
The Matrix was a documentary. The Matrix was a documentary, y'all. Because we're living in the Matrix now, bro. Where they said a human being would just be a battery for the system. You're a cog in a machine. You're keeping it running. The system depends on you. And you are dependent upon the system. Bro, that's crazy. We are living in the Matrix right now.
All of these companies are paving a way to a post-human future, something that all the tech oligarchs talk about regularly, about living in a transhumanist utopia. It's why yesterday's science fiction is today's fact. As technology is increasingly applied to the human body and mind, man himself will be altered as radically as his environment and way of life have been. In modern industrial society, human beings are not ends in themselves, but tools just to serve the system. And the system survives by making people so dependent on it they cannot imagine living differently. When we need chemical and genetic stimulation because of our degrading attention span, superficiality, and pacified nature, we seem to be going into a world straight out of Wall-E. We even did a whole video on this a couple years ago. As we are witnessing all of these giant societal processes taking us away from the natural essence of being a human and depressing our ability to live naturally and meaningfully. So of course our mental health is naturally going to depress too. And yet we treat the symptoms of modern despair with pills, therapy, and just quick fixes, while actually ignoring the structural trauma of industrial society itself. Big Pharma has a huge interest in pushing SSRIs on anyone who'll take them. They've corrupted America to be able to sell this in adverts, putting untold amounts of resources to put pressure on doctors to prescribe their products and convince people this is totally normal. Quote, "Imagine a society that makes people miserable, then drugs them to forget it." And it's literally getting so bad today that assisted taking your life in Canada is now even legal for depressed people.
Damn, bro. We gotten so far along that we even helping people commit suicide. That's how far we got with technology. Oh, you can't hack it no more? You want to just take yourself out? Medically assisted suicide. Man. That's crazy, bro.
March 2027, assisted voluntary ending of life will be available to those whose only condition is mental illness. May targets vulnerable people lacking social support. Healthcare workers are documented as suggesting made to those whose only problem is economic hardship, or simply those who just don't fit into the system well enough. Literally taking away the life of those who are deemed undesirable in society. And if you look around you in 2025, no matter where you are, you're probably seeing all of these processes taking place subtly around you. and yet there's zero protest about it. But he did miss something in his manifesto. You see, eventually he was captured by the FBI in 1993, just when the internet was rising exponentially. At the time, the world was at peak centralization, where big corporations and top-down systems ruled everything. But the internet seemed to have flipped that calculus. Suddenly anyone can now learn outside the university and sell products of their own outside of corporations' control. We are more able to build community outside institutions and find like-minded people through the said algorithms. The internet has given us a new frontier of decentralization, creativity, even rebellion. It's allowed anyone around the world to finally have freedom to read whatever they want to read, to consume what they want to consume, and create what they truly feel passionate about, without having to worry about some big company firing you for this. In a strange twist, the same technology that Kaczynski wanted to destroy has led us here right now, where you're watching this video about his manifesto, something that would have been buried years ago without the internet. But of course, you could also go the other way too. As we've seen, governments are now using the internet to surveil their populations from birth. And unless we actively protect our privacy and decentralization, the internet might just be another instrument of control like he predicted. And for sure, the internet has had disastrous consequences. Which leaves us with this weird paradox, as Kaczynski was right about many of these problems, and we can accurately see this today more than ever. But he was clearly wrong about the solution. Obviously, blowing people up doesn't awaken the world, it alienates it. And it's a terrible, unethical thing to do, as it makes his message way harder to digest. But it's clear as his warnings become truer and truer by the minute, that it's going to inspire more people like Luigi Mangione to try and act out his message, which could just lead to more repression and disastrous consequences as a whole, as that's definitely not the solution. But the message from the UnaBomber is clear. There are some very grave dangers coming from technology right now as we speak, that's affecting every single one of us subconsciously and consciously. And the more numb and comfortable we become in this system, the harder it is to change our own individual lives and escape it. If it weren't for the violence and madness, his manifesto would probably be taken a lot more seriously today. But only time will tell how long we have left to read his final words.
That was a good video, man. That was a good video. I already gave it a like. I want to read a couple of these comments. Once, men turned their thinking over to machines in the hopes that this would set them free, but this only allowed other men with machines to enslave them. Frank Herbert Doom. Yup. Peter Thiel saying, I don't know on the question if mankind should survive. Dude, you are part of mankind. Yeah, that was a little funny. Somebody else, Durkin 9664. In another life, he would have been a highly regarded philosopher. Yeah. Another guy, Alaric Vis 09. Every time I put my hand under the faucet of a sink, and then the sensor fails to turn on water, I get further radicalized. That was actually a funny comment. I'm gonna give that comment a like. But yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. I wanted to see what the UnaBomber story was about and how he tried to warn us, and it was a rather good video. Moon is a good channel. He always got some good fire for you. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. Professor Hawk signing out. Hawk Sensei bids you adieu. I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Toodaloo.